Did you know that your mind responds in a certain way when it encounters fear or when it encounters a fearful situation or when it is faced with uncertainty? Did you know that there are natural mechanisms that are wired into our brains to react in a certain pattern or to react in a certain way when we come or when it encounters a fearful situation or an uncertain situation? Did you know? Welcome to this our session where we are going to be talking about overcoming instinctual reactions to fear and uncertainty. And we are going to be taking a deep dive into how our minds react to fear and uncertainty and how it affects our trading performance and how we can better deal with this situation. So, fear and uncertainty are two aspects that are always going to be present in our normal day to day life, and it is always going to be present in our trading activity. But now, the problem is that when we bring in fear and uncertainty into trading, and our natural survival mechanisms begin to trigger, it begins to sabotage our trading rather than give us an edge over the market. Okay, so fear is actually one of our human emotions, and this emotion is actually a very, very necessary emotion because it helps us to protect us against inherent danger and anything that is threatening to our lives. So when you encounter a dangerous situation, then fear begins to come up. And when fear comes up, you're either going to flee, avoid, or you fight back. So those are the same ways in which when we encounter trading, excuse me, those are the same ways in which the mind is going to respond when we bring it into the trading environment. But most of the time, we don't even know that this is how the mind is reacting. This is how I should approach this particular situation at this particular moment. And so we find ourselves making the same mistakes in trading over and over and over again and wondering what the problem really is. So your mind is a survival machine. Let me say a survival machine. It has been built to guide us in our survival. And so anything that is threatening to your survival as a human being, there are particular patterns or things that have been embedded into our minds, into our DNA, that are going to trigger once we encounter a fearful or an uncertain situation. Now, in trading, you are going to be faced with a lot of fear and with a lot of uncertainty. And what most people or what most of us we don't understand is that we have these our natural responses, this our natural programming in us that are designed to help us stay out of danger or to protect us against uncertainty. And when we bring this into trading, because in trading, we encounter the fearful situations, and we also encounter uncertainty. So when we bring this into trading, what do you think is going to happen? When we bring this same mind that has been built to avoid or to run away from fearful situations or to fight back in fearful situations or to freeze in fearful situations, and the mind begins to see this thing we call trading in that same way, what do you think is going to happen when it begins to face fear, when it begins to face uncertainty? It is going to trigger into these same natural responses. And when it triggers into these same natural responses, it is going to sabotage your trading. So, guys, let us look at fear and uncertainty, our instinctual responses, and how we can overcome them in trading. So, let me try to make it more simple again. Now, I think you know about what we call an antivirus. So, an antivirus is a program that we put into our computers so that when it faces any threat or any virus, it is going to respond and it is going to keep out that malware from attacking our systems. So, our emotions, which is fear, it is just like this antivirus. Our emotions are just like this antivirus that nature has put into us so that it triggers and responds without us even being aware of it or without us even thinking about it. So it triggers and it does what it's supposed to do. It protects you from that situation. So when you hesitate to take a trade, when you overtrade, when you over leverage, now you are beginning to face your instinctual responses. All right. So it is not because you know that you are not supposed to overtrade or you don't know, but it is because of our instinctual responses to all of these situations. So when we go around or when you hear people say your net worth, right? We value people according to their net worth. And so when you bring in this money into trading and you're putting in your risking hard earned money, then you're risking your worth as a human being. And so that is a situation that is threatening as a whole to your existence as a human being. So, the same way that you stand in front of a lion and you respond, that is the same way that the mind is going to be responding in this fearful or this uncertain situation. Most at times, we don't even know. So, we are going to be taking a deep dive into it, understanding fear and uncertainty, and the underlying causes of all of these. So, fear is a survival mechanism, like I mentioned, rooted in the brain's amygdala. So, the amygdala is the part of our brain that we call either the reptilian brain or the ancient brain. And the amygdala is meant for survival. So, anything that is threatening to you, once information gets into your amygdala, then there is a certain way that it is going to respond. I don't want to go into all the complicated biology about it because it is going to bring in more confusion, right? So, the amygdala is just like this antivirus that I was describing to you. So when information gets into the amygdala, there are two ways in which it is going to respond. So it is either going to respond by either fight, flight, or freeze. So if you step in front of a lion, there are two things or there are three things that are going to come into mind. It is either you run away or you fight the lion or you're just going to find yourself completely frozen in front of the lion. These are the same things. This is the same way that the mind is going to respond when you come into trading, when there is a risky situation, when there is an uncertain situation, when the mind does not know if that trade that you're putting on is going to be a winner or it is going to be a loser. So the mind which has been bred for survival is going to come up and it is going to be bringing up its survival mechanisms. And these survival mechanisms, instead of helping you grow in trading, they are sabotaging your trading. When you, the trader, you don't even know, you are not even aware of the fact that this is what is happening. So fear is going to trigger into these survival responses, that is fight, flight, or freeze. Uncertainty, on the other hand, creates what is called discomfort due to craving predictability. So most at times, before somebody is getting to a relationship, they want to know how that relationship is going to end. When they are doing anything as human beings, we always want to know how it is going to end up. That is striving on predictability. That is how the mind always tries to create predictability. So it is very, very afraid of the situations that are uncertain, all right? When you don't know what is going to happen next, then it begins to create discomfort. And when discomfort begins to come up, then it begins to breed its own demons, which are going to come up as anxiety, come up as fear, as uh, a lot of other emotions, right? Fear, uh, a whole lot of it, right? Anxiety, discomfort, all of those things. So when the mind is faced with uncertainty, it creates discomfort due to the fact that our mind always seeks to be in a certain position. It always wants to know. I want to know what is going to happen next. I want to be aware of what, if I put on this trade, is it going to be a winner or a loser? And most at times, that is the question that I get from students, especially the new ones, when they come in and they do the analysis, they are going to send it to me and they say, "Sir, please, is this trade going to be a winner or a loser?" And I'll tell them, "I don't know. The only time we are going to know is when you put on that trade, all right? So you're never going to know." That is the mind trying to seek certainty. Before you get into a relationship, before you want to do a business, you want everything to click, to tick before you want to get into that business. But the reality of it is that there is uncertainty everywhere. Like you listening to me now, or me talking to you right now, I don't know what is going to happen in the next couple of hours, in the next couple of days. And I should be fine. I am fine with that. I am perfectly fine with not knowing. But the mind, on the other hand, is going to be creating all these illusions that you need to be aware of what needs to happen, maybe tomorrow, today, or in the next few hours for your survival. Now, our instinctual response to all of these, like I mentioned, to fear, to uncertainty, to risks, to all of our emotions, is either by fight, by flight, or by freezing. So, if you have ever traded and you find yourself over trading, that is fight. After taking a loss, you are trying to make back the money that you just lost in the market. That is what we call fight, right? And it is an instinctual response. It is something that you do not even control consciously. It happens unconsciously. And until we make the things that are unconscious conscious, we are always going to be ruled over by these things, and we are going to call it fate, all right, or bad luck, all right. So the next thing is flight. When you have done your analysis and you get into a trade, and the trade is going maybe to your take profit, and something at the back of your mind just begins to tell you that, oh, get out of this trade right now and better secure a little a bit of money that you have made, so that you don't end up with a loser and you end up closing that trade, and it continues to go and go and go, and it even surpasses your TP level. Now you have just experienced flight, all right? Your brain is trying to protect you by preserving what you already have and not losing what you have already made. All right. So that is just our instinctual response to uncertainty, because you don't know if that trade is going to continue or it is going to reverse to hit stop loss. Let's take for another example. You put on a trade and the trade is going towards your SL, and you find yourself jumping out of that trade without it hitting your SL, just to find it reverse and it goes back in your direction without even getting to your SL. Now, you have just experienced flight again. Why? Because the mind is just naturally doing its work, right? And you'll be telling yourself, oh, I told myself that I am not going to do the same thing. I told myself I'm not going to jump out of a trade if it does not hit my stop loss. I told myself I'm going to hold my trades much longer. Okay, but what is happening? Okay, my friend, you just experienced our ancient friend, our ancient survival mechanisms. All right, how we respond to uncertainty and fear. Have you ever found yourself, you do your analysis and price comes into your level, gives you a confirmation, but you are unable to take that trade? You find yourself freezing. Okay, you have just come across another survival or instinctual response to fear and to uncertainty because your mind does not know that if I take this trade, is it going to be a winner or a loser? So the outcome is uncertain. And since it is uncertain, it brings discomfort. And when there is discomfort, the mind is naturally going to do what it is supposed to do by avoiding that particular situation. So, my friends, if you have ever encountered any of these, let me know in the comment section how you dealt with that situation and how you are dealing with it right now and how is it sabotaging your trading. Also, if this is your first time watching us on YouTube, you can also make sure to hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button so that anytime that we post on any content on our channel, you are going to be one of the first people to have the privilege to learn. Also, make sure to give us a like because by giving us a like, you are going to be recommending this content, these lectures to more people who are out there struggling with trading, right? And it is going to help them a lot. So you're telling YouTube that, oh, this is good content, and I would like you to show this to another person. And if you understand the law of supply, you are going to understand that the law of supply demands that you give in order to receive. And you do not only give by giving away money to people, but this is part of giving as well. Just liking it and YouTube recommending to different people, you have done a very good job at giving and you are going to be receiving more. And if you want to reach out to me on my WhatsApp, there is a WhatsApp number for you to reach out to me. If you want to get into our mentorship program, good and fine. If you have any questions that you want me to answer for you, good and fine as well. Also, there is a link to our Telegram channel where we make sure that we provide you with a lot of content on Forex, trading psychology, emotional management, and on a lot of things. So if you're not in the channel, please make sure that you join the Telegram channel right away because you're missing out on a lot. If you're not in our community, I bet you're definitely missing out on a lot. Now, when you get into these situations, what happens is that when you are in a situation where there is uncertainty, you don't know if I take this trade, is it going to be a winner? Or if I take this trade, is it going to be a loser? What happens? Overthinking. When overthinking comes up, you find yourself, you have missed the trade and you start avoiding trade. All right. Anxiety or impulsive decisions start coming up. All right. You got into the trade. The trade was going in your favor because you were feeling afraid that it is going to reverse and hit your stop loss, or you end up losing on that trade. You jump out of the trade and the thing continues to go in your favor. You start trading out of impulse. You start jumping into the trade again. You start jumping into the trade out of fear of missing out. So when you feel uncertain, anxiety begins to come up, overthinking begins to come up, impulsive decisions begin to come up. So if you cannot calm the mind that trades, then the mind that trades is always going to be producing errors. Not because your trading system has an error, but because the mind that is executing that system has an error. So, my friends, I will say it again. The mind that we bring into the moment of performance or into trading is not necessarily the mind that is going to produce consistent profitability in the market. So, if you are that trader who has a perfect system, but you cannot still see results in your trading, it is not because your system has an error, but there is a glitch in your mind which nature has put into each and every one of us in such a way that before you get into trading, you have already been checkmated All right. So even before getting into trading, you're trying to make money, and there are natural mechanisms that you are not even aware of that are within you that are trying to prevent you from that situation which the mind is perceiving as a risky situation, and it is trying to keep you out of that dangerous situation. So you're always going to find yourself doing and repeating the same mistakes over and over and over and over, and you're going to be wondering, but what is really happening? What is happening? I know all of these things, but I'm not still making money out of trading. Okay, my friends, it is not because your system is faulty. It is just because you have not trained the mind that is trading to function in that particular trading environment. So you need to train the mind, you need to rewire the mind. And that is what we do in our training programs. We rewire your mind so that it fits the new trading environment. Now, I usually like to describe the mind like this to my students. The mind that we bring into trading, right, is like us. It's like a fish being in water. It thrives in water. It can do all type of acrobatics in water. But when you take that fish and you put it on land, you can never expect that fish to perform in the same way, right? Like it did in water. So the mind that we are bringing into trading has not just been developed and adapted to the trading environment. All right. So, in as much as the mind is seeing trading as a threat, as something that is dangerous, you're always going to be finding your old programs, your old instinctual response, the mammalian, the reptilian brain, the amygdala triggering into fight, flight, and to freezing, all right? Until that aspect of threat is taken away, then you're going to find yourself making the same mistakes over and over and over and over again in trading. That's why I tell my students as well that you need to love your wins in as much as you need to love the losses as you love the winners, all right? Because once the mind knows that there is a threatening situation, once it knows that there is a threat in it, it is going to trigger in the same way. Not because it hates you, but because it is just naturally doing its job. All right. So just like having an antivirus on your computer, you could install a good program on your computer, but the antivirus begins to view that program as something that is dangerous, and it could flag that program. It is not because the antivirus is bad, but it is just because it is perceiving it as a dangerous situation. All right. So that is how the mind reacts. So why do we need to overcome this our instinctual reaction? Why overcoming instinctual reactions matters? I don't really need to explain it again, because this instinctual response to all this fear, uncertainty, it is going to sabotage your trading. It is trying to protect you against that threatening situation, against you losing, against uncertainty, against all those things that it is perceiving as threats to your existence. All right. So, if you are not aware of the fact that this is what is happening, it is going to be happening over and over and over and over, and you'll be wondering what is happening. So you place a trade and you're sweating up and down. You cannot even breathe. You cannot put your phone down. You cannot drink water, right? Because the mind is already in that situation. So if you're not able to catch the mind and to calm yourself as you trade, there is always going to be trouble in your trading uh, performance. So modern threats are psychological, right? Modern threats are psychological, financial, or social. All right. So when all of these threats gets to the mind, what happens is that the mind begins to bring up its own survival ways of dealing with all of these things. So you put on a trade and the mind begins to perceive it as risks, as threat to your existence. It begins to bring up ancient survival mechanisms to protect you against that very situation. All right. The next thing is that instinctual fear can misguide decisions. All right. So whenever the mind sees it as a threat, it is always going to respond by trying to protect you from that situation without your conscious reasoning. That is the where the big problem comes in, because all of this is happening below conscious reasoning. It means that you don't even need to think about it for it to happen. You told yourself that I am not going to jump out of trades. I am going to leave it to either hit stop loss or hit take profit. But you find yourself jumping out of those trades again. You tell yourself, I am not going to trade more than 5 entries today. But at the end of the day, you have traded over 100 entries, and you're asking yourself, what is really happening? Okay, since as that trade is always there, since as the mind is seeing that situation as a threatening situation, it is going to respond in the same way. So, instinctual fear can misguide decisions, right? So, when you are in a fearful situation, your reasoning is slowed. Your ability to think rationally greatly reduced, and you are going to be trading based on emotions rather than reason. All right. And what are the consequences of all of these? It leads to missed opportunities. You freeze on your trading opportunity and you end up missing that opportunity. Poor judgment under stress. Now, trading is designed to put us, or trading is going to be putting us, or is putting us, right, under a lot of pressure. And your ability to strive in the foreign exchange market is by you, or in the financial market, is by you being able to deal with pressure, to function rationally and calmly under pressure. So once the mind is pressured, okay, instinctual response comes up. So you need to train the mind to function with calmness. All right. So there are various methods that you can use, and those are the methods that we teach in our pro course. All right. So if you can find ways in which you keep your mind very calm under uh, pressure, then good and fine for you. Self sabotage and stagnation, right? So you begin to sabotage yourself once you have been trading for a long period of time. Let's say you have been trading for 2, 3, 4, 5 years, no result, but you know everything about technical analysis, you know everything about the market, you can predict the market, but you're still not making money. And you have been asking yourself, why am I not really making money out of trading? Okay, now, when all of this begins to happen, you can begin to self sabotage. You begin to tell yourself, oh, I am not good enough at this. I am never going to be good enough at this. Others are making money. I am not making money. Blah, 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 up and down. You begin to underlook on yourself. The your inner critic begins to come up as well, begins to criticize you. You know that small voice inside you that is always telling you, criticizing you, you want to do something. It is there like, oh, you cannot do this thing, or who told you you can be good enough at these things? Okay, all of these, once you are unaware of how the mind responds to fear and uncertainty, then you are going to find yourself in this very nasty situation where you're going to self sabotage and you're going to feel like you are stuck. So, you why should we overcome all of this, our instinctual response? Why should we be aware of this? It is going to help us to easily navigate all of these situations. Now, let us look at strategies that we can use to manage fear and uncertainty. Now, we are aware of how our mind responds to fear and uncertainty. We are aware of the fact that it is going to affect each and every one of us. As long as you're a trader, as long as you're a human being, all of these situations are akin to every human being. So as long as you're a human being, you're going to face all of these. You're going to face all of this in your trading, you're going to face it in your daily life. And the solution is not for you to run away from it, but the solution is for you to be aware of it and to know how to deal with it. Awareness is the first stage to solving any problem. If you have a problem and you are not aware of the root cause of that problem, then there is no way that you are going to have a solution to it. So, most at times, we try to solve problems in the world by looking at the effects of it. So, we are trying to solve a problem by looking at the effect and trying to heal the effect, but we are not looking at the deep cause of it. Okay, so I am living in a mosquito infested area, and every time I am getting malaria, I am getting malaria. And all I am focused on doing is going to a doctor to check me out or to give me drugs and to give me medications on that malaria. But I am not looking at the root cause. What is causing that malaria? It's because of the dirty environment and the mosquitoes that I have around. And if I can clean my environment and reduce the amount of mosquitoes that I have in my environment, then I can better deal with that situation. So instead of me solving the effect, I am solving the cause. All right. So, what is the root cause of why you are sabotaging your trading journey, or why you seem to know everything about trading but you're not still making money? It is due to these our instinctual response to fear, to our emotions, to uncertainty, all right, which usually happens below conscious reasoning, meaning that it happens without you even thinking about it. And when you don't even think about it, you are not even aware of it. You are not even aware that this is what is happening. This is what is sabotaging my trading. All right. So we know now that this is what is happening below conscious reasoning, and we must be aware of all of these things before we can deal with them. Now, what are the strategies that we can use to manage fear and uncertainty? The first thing, like I mentioned, is awareness. Awareness and mindfulness. Once you know that this is what is causing malaria, what is causing malaria in my environment is because I have a dirty environment, and it is a breeding ground for mosquitoes, and these mosquitoes now is now transmitting more malaria to people. Right now, we can clean our environment because we are aware of that situation, and once we are aware of it, we are mindful of how we do our waste disposal. All right. So awareness of the fact that your instinctual response as sabotaging your trading, which most often we don't even know, is the first stage to solving this problem. Mindfulness is the next thing. Once I am aware, I am mindful of the fact, right? I am mindful of that fact. And when I am mindful of that fact, then I can find more suitable ways to deal with that situation. Mindfulness will also mean your ability to bring your mind back to the present moment. I always like to tell people that if you look at the way people function in the world right now, you're going to tell for sure that about 90 to 95% of people who live in the world are either living their lives in the past or they are living their lives in the future. We are never fully in the present moment. And mindfulness just requires us to be able to bring our mind back from past events, back from the future, and we place our minds in the present situation. So we focus on what is happening at hand. So you are never going to truly live if you keep on living in the past or living in the future. Life does not unfold in the past. Life does not unfold in the future, but life is always unfolding in the present moment. So most people live their life for the future just to get to the end and then they realize that they have missed out on the whole of life. So what is happening immediately in front of you is what you should be focusing on, and that is what awareness and mindfulness does to you. All of these we treat them more detailedly in the program, reframing fear into challenge. All right, now the way that your mind sees fear, you need to reframe the way that your mind is seeing fear. All right. So when you encounter that fearful situation, when you want to place that trade and you're shaky, you're sweating in your armpit, then that is fear taking over, right? So, because you are aware of the fact that fear is coming up to protect you from that situation, you are mindful enough because your mind is not dwelling in the past or in the future, then you can now reframe that fearful situation into a challenge for you to tell yourself that, oh, I recognize what is coming up. I know what is happening right now. But instead of me fearing this situation, I am going to challenge myself and I am going to take action. I am going to take conscious action. And when I take conscious action, I am going to see what the result of this trade is going to be. All right. That is a challenge now. So, building tolerance for uncertainty. The truth about life is that there is uncertainty everywhere. Uncertainty, I like to tell people, is a reality. Why certainty is not a reality? Because the truth is that we are never certain of what is going to happen next. We are never certain of the everything, right? When you were born, you were not certain. The family not certain. Who you meet not certain. The events that happen in your life not certain. All of it. So there is uncertainty everywhere. But the mind is always trying to help you to predict, right? To be certain. You want to predict. You want to be certain. That is why when you get into trading, it begins to predict, begins to seek certainty, which in reality is an illusion, right? So when you put on a trade, you are never going to know if that trade is going to be a winner or a loser. It is only when you have put on that trade that you finally know. So you need to develop tolerance for uncertainty to know that it is perfectly fine not knowing what is going to happen when I put on this trade. All right. So whenever I put on a trade, I am always going to say, I have done my job. Now let the market do its own job. All right. Because I know that I am trading in a probabilistic environment. I am trading in an environment that there is uncertainty. That is the nature of the market. The market is uncertain, it is dynamic, and you cannot predict the market. All right. So you need to develop tolerance for knowing that it is perfectly good and fine, not knowing what is going to happen. All right. So trading has helped me a lot because at first I used to worry a lot about, oh, what is going to happen tomorrow? What am I going to eat tomorrow? What am I going to do that? When am I going to do this? But with trading, I got to understand that no matter how good you plan, there is always this aspect of uncertainty that is going to come up. All right. And so anything can happen in the future. So, what is going to help you is your ability to stay flexible and be adaptive rather than trying to predict the future, which is what most traders are doing. Instead of them flowing with the market, adapting to the market, being flexible with the market, you're rigidly trying to predict the market. And when you try to predict the market, you're only going to end up in tears. All right. Cognitive and emotional regulation. Now, you need to train the mind, all right, to reframe from the way it sees fear and the way it sees uncertainty. That is why we mean by cognitive regulation. You need to train the mind to begin to perceive fear in a different way, all right? So I want to put on a trade and that fear is coming up. And instead of me leaving that fear, I begin to see that fear as an opportunity for growth. All right. So instead of fearing the fear itself, I begin to see fear as an opportunity for growth. All right. Now, the next thing is emotional regulation, which is something that we do deeply in the mentorship or in the pro program as well. You need to be able to sight or for you to catch these emotions when they come up so that you are able to regulate it. Remember, I said anything that you are not aware of, all right, always has power over you. The things that you don't know, they have power over you. And we must make the things that are unknown known for us to strive. So, when fear is coming up, when greed is coming up, when anger is coming up, when anxiety is coming up, when each of these emotion is coming up, when joy is coming up, you should be aware of the fact that this is the emotion that I am functioning under right now. And if fear or greed is coming up, or if anger is coming up, what is the root cause of this emotion? Most likely, when you find the root cause of that emotion, you are going to be able to deal with it amicably. So I put on a trade and immediately it goes to my stop loss and it reverses. I begin to feel anger, right? And from that anger can catapult to a whole lot of things. It can lead to revenge trading. It can lead to a lot of things in a twinkle of an eye. But since I am aware of the fact that this emotion, anger, is not well suited for the trading environment, I am aware of the fact that this is anger. And why is this anger coming up? It is coming up maybe because I lost some money that I was not supposed to risk, or I am just feeling angry because it took me out before reversing in my direction. Now, once I know why that anger is coming up, I can now deal with it. Is it because I did something wrong? If I did something wrong, then I can correct it on the next trade instead of trying to beat myself up, instead of telling myself how useless I am. And then if I see that, okay, it was just the market doing what the market does, right? And I took a stop loss and that anger is coming up, then I will tell myself that, okay, there are more opportunities coming up. There is no need to get angry, and losses are part of trading. You see the way that I have reframed my mind. And now, instead of me going back to try to recover that money, trying to revenge trade, trying to overtrade, now by being aware of the state of mind that I am functioning under and the emotion that I am functioning under, I am able to regulate that emotion, right? And most of the times, we teach about breathing because breathing is one of the ways that we use to calm our emotions. So when you encounter a fearful situation or a situation that you're angry, most often they are going to tell you that breathe in, breathe out, right? So breathing is one of the ways that we calm our emotions. And we do this deeply in the mentorship program. Developing resilience. You must be able to develop resilience as a trader. All right. So if you're not resilient, when you begin to take those stop losses hit, once a losing streak comes up, right, then you're going to find yourself either avoiding the market or saying that trading is a scam. So, resilience as a trader is one of the skills that you need to develop. Resilience in your learning process, resilience in everything that you do pertaining to trading, structured decision making. All right. So once your emotions are calm, once you know the state of mind under which you're performing under, then you're going to be able to function with a structured mind. All right. And we do this by having a good trading plan in process, having rules around our trading, having good risk management. Once all of these are in place, your decision making is going to be structured. Now, awareness and mindfulness. When you get into a fearful situation, right, notice that your body is going to respond in a certain way. It is either you are going to feel the sweat, you are going to feel this bubbling feeling inside of your chest, right? So, being aware of each of these situations by noticing the physical changes in your body, by noticing your face, right? The expressions on your face is going to tell you what emotion you are functioning under, right? So, practicing awareness and listening to your body language, listening to what the body is telling you. So, our emotions, the way they communicate to us, they don't have a voice, but the voice that they are going to communicate with us is through reactions on our body. So, our body language is going to tell us if I am fearful, right? I begin to sweat under my armpit. And so it is telling me that, oh, I am getting into this particular state of mind, which is fear. And how do I respond to it? I begin to bring up the ways in which the best way that I can respond to it. Practicing mindfulness, breathing, grounding, and body scans. All right. So we already talked about mindfulness, the breathing techniques, and the grounding. So bringing back your mind into the present moment is one of the ways that can help you, right, to catch this our instinctual response. So when I put on a trade and the mind is telling me, get out of this trade, get out of this trade, but I am able to breathe, take in a few deep breaths, deep in breathly and breathe out slowly, right? Then I can now calm down the emotion, calm down the way my body is responding. And when my body is now calm, I can now take more rational decisions. Now, also, journaling your fears and your thoughts, right? Journal your fears, your thoughts. That is why a journal is very, very important. When you take a trade, journal, write down how you felt when you took the trade. How were your emotions? Were you feeling fearful? Were you totally composed when the trade was running? That is how you are going to improve your reactions. That is how you improve on yourself. So, working on the self is one of the most difficult part of trading. And that is why most people, instead of working on themselves, they are always looking for a strategy, a strategy, a strategy. So if you go on the strategy courses out there, you're going to see a lot of views, millions of views under it because people feel like there is a magical strategy out there that they should be using that will be giving them wins when they fail to understand that the strategy lies within themselves as well, right? So the Bible says it all. The kingdom of God is within you, right? And the answer, my friend, is living within men. So the answer is living within you and not necessarily in the chart. So the chart are part of the process, but the mind that is executing that strategy is what is going to drive you to consistent profitability. So journaling your trades and how you felt during, before, during, and after the trade is going to help you improve, right? So your journal is just like a mirror reflecting back to you your own reactions, and it is going to help you a lot. So look for a journal, get a journal, and journal all of those things. Reframing fear, shift from threat to challenge. So I made mention that the way you see fear is going to have to reframe. You need to change the way. That is what I mean by reframing, rewiring, right? You need to change the way you see fear. Instead of perceiving it as a dangerous situation, you begin to perceive it as a challenge, all right? So for you to grow, there must be that aspect of change, right? There must be that aspect of challenge. For you to know if you're going to make money in trading, you must put on that trade. You must take the trade. You can know all the technical analysis, know all the trading psychology in the world, but if you don't execute on that, then you're never going to know how far you're going to go. All right. So instead of seeing fear as a threat, train your mind to see it as a challenge to you. So challenge your mind and say, okay, I am putting on this trade. I don't know what it's going to be. I don't know what the outcome is going to be, but I am fine. I am fine with seeing what the outcome of this trade is going to be. Win or lose, you are not a loser, all right? So, win or lose in trading, it does not affect your worth as a human being. Now, the reason why your emotions or why you are going to respond instinctually to all of this, uh, to fear and uncertainty, is because we most at times tie our worth as human beings to our performance in our daily activity. So if I perform well, I am a worthy human being. I can get the babes, I can get everything I want, I can do a lot of things. But if I don't perform well, it means that I am not a worthy human being, which is a very fat lie that the mind is going to tell you and that society is going to tell you. Your worth as a human being is not dependent on anything out of yourself. If you should take away one thing from this our lesson, you should take away this thing. Your worth as a human being is not dependent on anything outside of yourself. And so, your worth as a trader is not dependent on any outcome of your trade, be it a winning trade or be it a losing trade. So, you must learn to detach yourself emotionally from the outcomes of your trade, be it a winning or be it a losing trade. All right. You must be able to detach your worth from the outcomes of your trade. All right. So ask yourself, what can I learn? What is possible? All right. What is this fear telling me? What is this uncertainty teaching me? All right. So instead of you seeing that fearful situation as something that is threatening to you, you begin to see it as a challenge for you to learn and for you to see what is possible if you take that trade. Replace catastrophic thinking with evidence based reasoning. So, the stories that the mind is going to be telling you most often are all lies, all right? So, all thinking is done before you take a trade. Once that trade has been taken, there is no thinking that should be done again. It is either it is going to your stop loss or you're breaking even or it is going to your TP. All thinking is done before the trade. Building tolerance for uncertainty, because uncertainty is what you are going to be facing in the market day in, day out. Uncertainty is what you're going to be facing in life day in, day out. Now, instead of you trying to run away from uncertainty like most people are trying to do, you begin to embrace uncertainty. So, for you to transcend everything in life, anything in life, or for you to overcome anything in life, you must be able to embrace that thing. So, if I want to solve a problem, I don't run away from that problem, but I embrace that problem and I bring that problem closer to me, all right, so that I am able to solve it, all right. So, gradual exposure to uncertain situations, right? So if you're somebody who has been so afraid of taking this opportunity because you're not aware or you don't know if that opportunity is going to work out, the best thing for you or the best thing that we usually do in our training is to do what we call exposure therapy. We expose you to more situations that you need to face uncertainty in it. You don't know what the outcome of it is going to be. Like getting into a relationship with somebody, you don't know if that relationship is going to work out at the end of the day or not, but you still get into that relationship because you think there is a possibility of it working out, right? So, gradual exposure to things that are uncertain and you understanding that uncertainty is the reality And being making peace with not knowing, right, is one of the ways that is going to guide you and to help you to be able to deal with uncertainty. Because as long as the mind perceives uncertainty as a threat, it is going to respond in the same way, which it's going to sabotage your trading. So expose yourself to more uncertain situations, all right? But be careful. That is why risk management is important as well. Accepting uncertainty as a constant. Like I mentioned, uncertainty is a constant in our lives, right? So at each point in life, there is always this aspect of uncertainty everywhere. So there is always the possibility that when you put on a trade, you're not going to make money out of that trade. When you start a relationship, it is not going to work out perfectly. So instead of you trying to run away from uncertainty, you begin to understand that uncertainty is a natural part of life, right? And if you understand that uncertainty is a natural part of life, then it is easier for you to bring in that mindset into trading because you understand that the trading environment is an environment full of uncertainty as well. So instead of you trying to run away from uncertainty by trying to predict the market, by trying to predict events, you understand that uncertainty is the constant, right? You never know what is going to happen. And also realizing that change is the only constant, right? Things are going to change, whether it is changing for the better, whether it is changing for the worse, but the reality is that things are going to change. All right. So uncertainty is the constant in trading. We are trading in a dynamic environment. Now, focusing on your controllable factors. There are certain things in the market that you can control, and there are certain things that you cannot control. But most often, we are concentrated on trying to control the things that we ourselves cannot even control. You're trying to control outcome. You're trying to make money. You cannot control outcome in trading, but you can control the process that you're bringing into trading. You can control the amount of money that you're risking. You can control your lot size. You can control your position sizing. You can control those things. But most often, what are we trying to do? We are trying to control winning and losing when we don't have any power over winning and losing. We don't have any control over winning and losing. So there is always going to be problem. Excuse excuse me, when you try to control outcome, when you try to control the uncontrollable factors. So focus on the things that you can control and leave out the ones that you cannot control. Now, you need to challenge cognitive and emotional regulation. These are things that we talked about. And you need to challenge your irrational fears with logic. So when that fear is coming up, you begin to face it with more logic because you're aware of the fact that this is fear coming up. This is the situation that is coming up. And I'm able to approach it more logically instead of leaving it to my natural instinctual responses or reactions to fear and uncertainty. Now, you could use meditation, visualizations, and affirmations. So, meditation is just by you sitting and clearing your mind from all the thoughts that are running into your mind, right? So meditation does not really mean that you sit and you're thinking about something. It is actually the act of freeing the mind from all the random thoughts that you're going to have running into your mind over and over and over again. Then visualization. What I like to do is that I like to visualize my losses. So I know that tomorrow I am trading, and on that trade I am going to be risking $100. So from today I start visualizing myself losing $100, right? So when I close my eye, I imagine myself that I have lost $100. So losing now begins to become a part of the process, because I understand that losing in trading is part of the process. And so, since the mind fears losing and it is going to sabotage when you lose, you need to make that losing a natural part uh, of your trading, right? So I always tell people that you need to love the losses same as you love the wins. Affirmations are also very good tools that you could use. Affirming your what you want to do, right? Affirming to yourself that I am a disciplined trader. Affirming to yourself that I am a patient trader. Affirming to yourself a whole lot of things, right? So if you want a list of affirmations, you can get to me. The number is in the description. I am going to give you a list of some very good affirmations that you could use. So you need to label your emotions to reduce its intensity. So the way that fear is going to sabotage your trading is not actually the same way that anger is going to do. So label all those emotions so that you reduce the intensity on it. Once I know that I am under a fearful or angry situation right now, I already know, so it is going to reduce the intensity of me reacting on that particular situation. Building a strong support system, right? You need to develop resilience as a trader. You need to be a very resilient somebody. All traders are very resilient people. It is not easy that you take a loss today, you take a loss tomorrow, you take a loss next week, and you still come back into the market. So, resilience is very good. Now, what you need to do is that you need to develop a strong support system. Your support system could be your family members who understand your journey. Your support system could be a group of friends of that you trade together. Like we have a trading community and we use this as our support system. If somebody takes a loss, we come and then we talk about the loss. We encourage the person. We talk about how the person can deal without loss. All right. So having a support system. If you have a spouse that is very understanding of your trading journey, then good and fine for you. Whenever you take a loss, whenever make a mistake, whenever you take a win, go talk to them and they are going to provide with you a lot of support. Now, maintaining a physical well being, exercise, diet well, rest very well, sleep very well, calm your mind. Take good walks in nature. Go out into the silence and enjoy nature. Enjoy different aspects of life. Don't be that type of trader that gets up in the morning and you're on your screen from morning till evening. That is going to sabotage your trading. So exercise, rest, eat well, have different relationships out of trading. Enjoy life, all right? So focus on long term goals rather than short term goals. So, trading, your success as a trader is not dependent on any one trade that you're going to make, but it is going to be dependent on a series of trades that you're going to make on or throughout your trading journey. So, when you take a loss on one trade, or when you take a win on one trade, do not feel like you're on top of the world or is you're at the bottom if you lose. All right. So focus on the long term goals. Focus on being a profitable trader in the long run. So always focus on the process. Now, decision under making under fear and uncertainty. The best thing that you could do when fear and uncertainty, when you want to put on that trade and you freeze or fear is coming up, when you are in a trade, you want to get out of that trade, you will find yourself trying to revenge trade. The first thing that you should do, once you are aware of the fact that that is the situation that the mind is getting you under, is you pause before you react. That short pause can save you from a lot of damage done to your account and done to your mind. All right. So gather facts, but also avoid over analysis. So what I usually see a lot of beginners do is that you want to trade everything, you want to learn every system. But the truth is that you cannot become a profitable trader by focusing on everything. So you don't need to become what we call a jack of all trade but master of none. Master one thing, be good at that one thing, or else you're going to be encountering what we call analysis paralysis. When you overanalyze, then you don't know what to focus on. When price comes, then you're having a lot of things to look out for, and you find yourself unable to execute. Use tools, pros and con list, risk reward analysis to be able to analyze your performance on each trade. Plan for the worst case scenarios and the best case scenarios. All right. So before I get into a trade, I always like to visualize that I have already lost. So before putting on a trade, I already tell myself that, oh, this money that I am putting in, I've already lost this money, so that it does not disturb my mind if it eventually goes the wrong way, or if the thing goes against me. Now, decision making under fear and pressure and uncertainty is what you are going to be doing for the rest of your life as a trader, especially if you cannot train yourself to be able to function under this pressure. All right. So, these are the things that you need to do for you to be able to function well under pressure. Now, there are practical tools that you could also use and techniques for you to catch your emotions when you get into this situation. And we mentioned breathing, we mentioned grounding, and we mentioned visualization and affirmation. Practice calm responses daily. Breathing is one of the ways that we always calm our emotions. So when we get into a dangerous or a fearful situation, the first thing is that you want to breathe. Grounding, bringing back your mind to the present moment. All right. Visualization, visualizing your wins, visualizing your losses. The next thing is affirmations, affirming to yourself, I am a patient trader. I am uh, I am a consistently patient trader. I am a disciplined trader. Those are the things that you should be affirming to yourself. And you don't just affirm it by words, but you affirm it with feeling. It is by you adding that feeling into it that is going to make a lot of sense. All right. Practice calm responses daily. It is not only in trading, also in your different activities. Maybe you are that type of person that when somebody steps on your toe, the next thing is that you burst into a lot of anger. Learn to respond differently to those situations in your daily life. And when you begin to respond like that, in daily life, it is going to be easy for you to just transition that into trading. So, trading most at times is just a reflection of who you are as a human being yourself. All right. So, it is just a reflection of yourself. So, most people, when you get into trading, you're going to think that you're trading the market. But in reality, what you're doing is that you're trading your own self. You're trading your fear, you're trading your greed, you're trading your anxiety, you're trading your emotions, and you're trading your ability to respond to uncertainty. That is the reality about trading. Okay, so growth beyond fear. If you cannot go beyond fear, if you cannot deal with fear, fear is one of the most damaging thing to growth. You want to take an opportunity, fear is always only telling you that if you take this opportunity, you're going to fail. You want to start a new business, you're only afraid that if I take this business opportunity, I am going to fail. So fear is one of our greatest obstacles to growth. And if you cannot reframe the way that you see fear, it is always going to be holding you back, right? So there is potential in every human being, but what keeps us from achieving that potential is most often fear. So fear and uncertainty are gateways to growth. So instead of seeing fear and uncertainty as risks to you, you begin to see fear and uncertainty as potentials for you to use and to grow. All right. Courage, acting despite of fear. So fear is never going to go away. So since emotions are inherent part of us, and we talked about emotional awareness in some of our videos, you can check in our channel. You're going to see that lecture on emotional awareness, and you're going to understand that emotions are inherent part of us. They are part and parcel of every human being. So you can never do away with your emotions, but you can learn to work with your emotions, right? So courage will not mean that fear is absent, all right? It is going to mean that there is fear, but you act despite of that fear. So fear is going to plague everybody. Fear plagues everybody in trading and in daily life. But those who strive are those who have chosen to respond differently to fear. All right. So every breakthrough lies beyond uncertainty. So whenever you start a business adventure, anything that you do in life, you are not certain that starting this business, going to this new country is going to be like this. But you have that feeling, you have that faith that if I do this, it is going to mean more benefits, it is going to be more beneficial to me, it is going to be an opportunity to me. So growth lies beyond uncertainty. So you should be able to accept uncertainty in your daily life and in your trading as well. So if you have watched and you have listened to me talk right to the end of this video, then I bet you that if you put in all of these things into practice in your daily trading, you are going to see results, especially if you already have a system that is working. All right. So you could have a strategy or a system that gives you just about 30% win rate. But because you understand these things that I am telling you, that your 30% win rate can provide you profitability in trading. So it is not about how many times your strategy is winning, but how much you can capitalize on the times that you win. All right. So, and this now boils down to the fact or to the point of psychology and mindset in trading. So if you have watched us to the end, please make sure to like, make sure to leave us a comment, make sure to ask your questions in the comment section. You can also reach out to me. The number is in the description and the number is also on the screen here. There is a WhatsApp number. You can call me on direct call or you can reach out to me on WhatsApp. All right. So once you master your minds, you can master trading. Once you master the mind, you master the market. All right. This is just a reflection of you. So your biggest edge is not your strategy, it is your psychology in trading. Just like a great teacher will say, the kingdom of God is within you. And the answer, my friend, is within you. So please make sure to like, make sure to subscribe to the channel, make sure to hit that notification button so that anytime that we drop a content or we drop any lecture, you're going to be one of the first person to receive it. And by you liking, you're going to be recommending this video to a lot of others as well. And you can also see this is the Telegram link that is here. It is also in the description for you to join our Telegram channel. It is Easy Forex 007. Any other Easy Forex that you see out there, it is probably a scam. All right. So there are a lot of people who are trying to copy the channel as well. And they are going to be demanding a lot of money and a lot of finances from you. So run away from those type of people. The Telegram channel is free and everything that we teach there is free. So join the Telegram channel if you want to do more or you want to work more on your psychology and your emotional resilience as well. So with that said, I wish you all the best in your trading journey. I wish you all the best in your respective activities. May the universe continue to guide, protect, and provide for you each and every step of the way. God bless you all and have a great rest of your time. Bye bye.